this lesson, we will talk about booleans, which are true and false values. So let's create a new variable called my boolean, and let's assign a keyword called true. Pay attention because we have to use it with a capital T, and we can't use quotation marks. If we do it like this, all we are doing is creating a string. That's not what we want. We want the true value. So if we do this, and we get the type of the variable, we can see that the type is Boolean. We also have the false value. And why do we need true or false values? Well, this is one of the most important things in programming. All the logic of our programs will be based on those values. But what we just did, manually assigning true or false values to a variable, is not very useful. Actually, those values are going to be generated when we make comparisons. So let's create two variables. num1 equals 8 and num2 equals 4. Now let's compare them. So I'll just put num1, and I'm going to check if the value assigned to this variable is greater than the value assigned to number 2. So this is the greater than sign. If we do this, it returns true because yes, 8 is greater than 4. So let's do the opposite now. Let's ask if num1 is less than num2. And now it returns false. We just used two comparison operators. Let's take a look on other comparison operators we have in Python. So we have greater than and less than. We also have equal to. Now continuing, we have the not equal to operator, which uses the exclamation mark. We also have the greater than or equal to operator, which tests two conditions at the same time. So if the first number is the same as the second, it returns true. And if the first number is greater than the second, it also returns true. We also have the less than or equal to. So let's go back to the code and make some more comparisons. So let's check if num1 is equal to num2. So don't forget to use two equal signs, because if you do this, then you're assigning the value of num2 to num1. If you want to do the comparison, you should use two equal signs. So now it returns false. Let's change the value of num2 and put it to 8. Let's make the comparison again. And now it returns true. Now that they have the same value, if we ask if num1 is not equal to num2, then it's going to return false. The exclamation mark, meaning not, so in this case not equal to, is something very common in most programming languages. Now let's take a quick peek on how we can use booleans inside conditional statements. So let's start a new program. So File, New File. And now let's ask the user for two numbers. So num1, let's convert it to float so we can make the comparisons. And here we can use the input function and ask for the first number. Let's do the same for num2. And now we can use an if statement with a conditional. We do it like this. We use the keyword if, and then inside parentheses, it is expecting a true or false value. So we can get one by entering a comparison here. So let's compare if num1 is greater than num2. In most programming languages, we use curly braces like this, and everything that is inside curly braces is part of this if statement, but not in Python. In Python, we use colon, and then you can see that it automatically does an indentation here. So everything that starts here, it's going to be inside this if statement. So let's print something like num1. So let's print the actual value that is inside the variable is greater than, and then num2. So if this is true, it's going to execute this code. Now let's go to the next line and let's get out of this indentation. So back here all the way to the left. And let's type another line of code just to test. Actually, let's break a new line. And then I'm just going to type this is out of the if structure. This is only for testing purposes. Now let's see what happens when we run this program. Don't forget to save it. So this is going to be our 02. We can name it Booleans. Let's run it. So let's type the first number, 2, and then the second number, so 4. The only thing it printed is this message. So this message is going to print anyway, because this is not inside the if structure. This message was not printed because this comparison resulted in false. So if we have a false value here, this code is not going to be executed. Now we can erase this because we already know what happens. Let's run it again. And now let's put 4 and 2. Now the comparison resulted in a true value because 4 is greater than 2. So this code has been executed. So this is how conditionals work. We can also use the elif statement to create more conditions. So after the if, let's go back here, and now let's start an elif. This is part of the structure, but this is another condition. So let's put num1 is equal to num2. In this case, let's print num1 is equal to num2. And now if none of that happens, we can also use an else statement that don't require any test. We can just put else like this. And here we can put num1 is less than num2. So how does it work? If this is true, it's going to execute this code and it's going to ignore all the rest of the structure. If this is not true, then it's going to continue in the structure. So then it's going to test this one here. If this is true, it's going to execute this code and it's going to ignore the rest. But if this one is also not true, in any other case, this is the code that is going to be executed. So let's save this and let's test our program. First, let's try 2 for number 1 and 4 for number 2. And now it says 2 is less than 4. Cool. Let's run it again. Now let's try 4 and 2. So 4 is greater than 2. And now let's try the same numbers. So 2 and 2. And now it says 2 is equal to 2. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so this was all about Booleans for the moment. We're going to explore in more details how conditionals work later in the course. And that's when we're going to start writing real programs. I can't wait. If you have any questions, just leave it in the Q&A section. I'll see you soon.